The following is a paid program. Advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Klodowski Real Estate, not WBEV, ESPN, or Good Karma Brands.
WBEV is on FM at 95.3 FM.
That's on me, Charlie. I forgot you were playing the liner. Welcome to Taking Care of Business today with Klodowski Real Estate. I'm sitting here with Chris and Abby Klodowski of Klodowski Real Estate, your local real estate advisors. How are you guys today?
Doing great.
Doing good. I love you got the branded T-shirt on now.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a bunch of gear? Do you have T-shirts, hats, jackets?
You are the third person that asked me that today, but no.
Okay.
I just have a friend do the vinyl in these, and sometime this winter when things are slower, we'll stop at Design Plus and get some.
There you go.
Get some actual shirts made. We do have hats though, if you need one.
Oh, hey, I'll keep that in mind. Wear it for the show. I totally would. And plus, since I'm losing my hair, I got to wear hats now because apparently sunburns on the head is a thing.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Nobody told me that was going to happen when I was, 17, 18 and had a white boy afro. So luckily we have no
pictures
visual
where it didn't
on that
happen.
One. Yeah. Oh, they're out there. I'll show you later. So obviously we're not here to talk about my hairstyle from the early 2000s. We're here to talk real estate because that's what you guys know all about. You guys are experts at that. And you brought in a bunch of information. You got a bunch of stuff you want to talk about. Do we want to start with something we had brought up a while back that you now have an update on?
And I always want to say the NRA, the NAR lawsuit thing. It is not the National Rifle Association. There was a lawsuit of people that brought suit stating some unfairness. The National Association of Realtors settled on that. What the fallout is reaching us here as realtors here in Beaver Dam and across the country, one is it used to be previously, say someone listed a house and they listed their house at 10% commission. And they said, we want to give our listing agent 5% and we want to give the person that brings the buyer 5%. It used to be when realtors would go into the multiple listing service, the MLS, they could see what that seller was extending to the person that brought the buyer. That went away.
Okay.
We no longer have that. I feel like Wisconsin has always been pretty great because as long as I've been in real estate, none of the forms are pre-populated with a commission amount because commission is a negotiable amount.
Right.
Say someone is selling a vacant piece of land, and obviously, say it's $30,000, and if you did 7% commission, I had one recently actually, and he's like, I want to list at 8% because I know it's a lesser price, and so each person gets a little bit more because,
right,
yeah. And then also how you divide that is negotiable. So that is something that Wisconsin's always left as blanks on the form, and that you had to fill in as you met with your buyer or seller. Now they require that when you show a buyer a property, it doesn't matter if it's commercial, lease, vacant land, a house, you need to have some type of documentation signed. There is a pre-agency agreement that someone could sign if they don't want to commit to anything, but then you can also be charged a fee to look at a house if the agent is just showing it to you and there won't be anything thereafter. Or you can be what they call a customer, meaning that you are entitled to all the duties of fairness, equal treatment, ethics, all of that. Or you can be a client. And honestly, as realtors, even when I first started, customer client is so confusing.
Right. It almost feels like it's just one's a fancier word for the other, right?
So customer is just someone you're working with. You're not supplying them with much stuff. Client is more of the true signed agreement where not only are you being honest and ethical in the transaction, but you can do so many additional things for them. For example, say a meteor went through a roof on a house, and you're going through, it doesn't matter who you represent, you can point out that may be an adverse fact, a hole in the ceiling, something like that.
Weird enough, rain may come through that, yeah.
Right, other things. Whereas when you're working with someone, they want to write an offer on a house and they want to know how it's priced. Well, you can run comparables for them and give recommendations for what they may want to offer. Or little things like you could say, like when they're your client, when you're their buyer's agent, they're opening up the closet, or you walk into the walk-in closet and half is empty, and there's only one side of clothes there. As a buyer's agent, you can say, I wonder if this has been a split, a divorce, something of that nature,
Right.
which may be beneficial to a buyer in writing an offer. You can look those things up then and say, oh yeah, I see they filed for divorce on whatever date. If you are just working with someone as a customer, you can't share those types of things with them. Your job, you're an extension of the the listing agent, so you have to represent the seller's best interest and can't share little things like that. So if it's a big deal to the house, it doesn't matter who you work for, you are liable for sharing that information if you have knowledge of it. Whereas if you were working with a client and there's some extra little nuances that you can weigh in on, that you can do that. Or if you can look up what their mortgage is, for example, and you can see that, oh, okay, well, they only owe this amount, and some people may factor their offer based on that type of information. You can share those types of things. I'm not going to lie, it is very confusing, and that's why we are very happy to repeatedly sometimes answer the very same questions, because it can be difficult to understand without some guidance.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm glad you guys are here to navigate through that, because it sounds like it complicated quite a few things.
It is. I mean, we've gone through extra trainings ourselves to learn from this lawsuit, like what additional things had to be put in place. Yes.
Like we knew about buyer's agency before because we had talked about that. But now it's like taking that one step further and being like, you are basically a seller's agent until because you're working on their behalf.
And no matter what property you're touring, you need to sign something before.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yes. So, if someone just calls up and says, hey, I want to look at this house you have listed. Well, to first meet them in the driveway and be like, oh, yeah, here's these documents. Like, which one do you want to sign? I mean, obviously, there's more explanation to it. But it's like, oh, wait, what's happening here type of thing?
Well, yeah, because we're very hesitant to sign anything.
For sure.
We're like,
Same here.
Is this going to cost us something? What's going on? Yeah.
Right. And then that's why we always start with a buyer consultation. When, someone calls and says, hey, I think I might want to buy a house, but I'm not sure how that works. We were like, hey, want to meet at the coffee shop? Want to meet at our office? What's comfortable with you? Let's talk about this.
Now, does this tie your hands when you're helping somebody find a home, in the sense of, like, I think about in our case, there was a little bit of a very small, narrow window of money difference between what needed to be happening on one end and what had to happen on the other for them to get the sale through. And one of the agents said, look, I'll take 0.5% less because that'll cover the gap difference. And then that made everything go through.
Yeah.
Are you guys still able to do that, or you cannot do that because now you got to disclose so much stuff ahead of time on like who gets what percentage?
You can if it's agreeable to all parties and someone is willing to do that. Yes.
Okay.
I think I've done that twice in my career, where there was this gap where the seller had some liens against them that had to be cleared up as well to sell the house.
Right.
So their proceeds went into the negative number. And to make the transaction go through, I mean, one for them, but two, importantly for the buyers, like when you were coming cross country or have given up your lease on an apartment and you're at closing and you've done everything right, and all of a sudden like, oh, actually, we're not going to close. Yeah.
Right.
Just to keep everything in everyone's best interest at heart.
All right. Well, I'm glad they found a way to make real estate even more confusing.
True story.
But I'm glad you guys are here to help with all of that. Now, I love this. You brought in a whole list of things for us to look at today, which is great. But before we get into it, I want to remind everybody, first and foremost, how they can find you guys, how they can get a hold of you. There is your website, of course, that everybody can check out, which I highly recommend doing. They can also, of course, check you guys out on Facebook. You guys are on there as well. And then there's the phone that rings to any three of you. Who's got it this week? Okay.
Abby
For
does.
once, one of you has it. All right. So if
Adam
somebody tests
usually
that,
does.
we'll know. So give that number again for everybody.
It is 920-219-9212.
Perfect. And we highly recommend giving a call. You guys.
We're going to get that tattooed on Abby's forearm because
That's a good idea.
She does not remember the office number very well.
When I recorded my commercial the other day, I recorded it and I was like, he played it back for me. And I was like, oh yeah, that's good. let me Google and make sure that our phone number is actually that before we finish.
Well, I feel like phone numbers are a lot like when you spell the same word over and over again. You're like, now it doesn't sound right when I'm spelling
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yes, but like her cell is like 763-2882, and this is 219-9212, and my husband is 319-6882, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
Only too many numbers.
Yeah. I've already lost what you said the first one was, so that's definitely too much. But yeah, I definitely want to reach out to you guys if you're looking to buy, if you're looking to sell, if you have questions. Obviously, you guys are going to be the people to talk to. And that leads right into the first thing you have on your list here. You guys are a realtor that you guys can trust. And you talk about buyer consultation. Talk to me, what is buyer consultation?
When someone's considering sticking their toe in the water to find out if maybe buying a home is a good fit for them now or in the future, you're entitled to interview realtors, either on the phone or getting together in person. We like to get together in person, one, so people can interview us, but also so we can go through the process. And there's so much information to cover that I feel like it is just, kind of touching the surface of things. But then when someone's writing an offer, it's like, oh yeah, we did talk about this before. So like in the buyer consultation, we go over the steps from meeting with a lender to get a pre-approval letter to looking at houses, finding out what they're interested in and why they're interested in it. Like a couple comes in and says, we want a 4-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms.
Right.
And as they're talking, well, they have 2 kids. May I ask why you want 4 bedrooms? Well, it's because someone works from home. So they don't really need 4 bedrooms because a property could have an office or a den that would meet that need. Just good things for us to know when we're seeing new listings come up and, looking at our list of buyers to see who might be a fit for that. And giving them a heads up on things. Like when I bought my first house, I did not have a buyer consultation with the realtor I used. And all of a sudden I had an accepted offer and she's like, well, I need a check for this much for earnest money. What's that? Are they going to cash the check? Like, I had no idea. And then like a home inspection, generally a home inspection is in the $400 to $450 range, which is well worth the investment. But they're extra things that you need to have money for, to pay for, in that moment before you're going to purchase the house. So we like to have people be well prepared so they're not writing an offer in a house they love and being like, well, we really don't have that extra $450 this month. I think we'll just skip the inspection. Like we want them to be prepared with that. So we go over all the steps of what that looks like with them, and talk to them about, lenders if, say they're a veteran and they want to utilize the VA loan. Some people that we worked with that have been excellent at, communication. That's pretty important going through a transaction.
Now, just because somebody sits down with you for one of these buyer consultations, obviously, I feel like we have to say this because people are always confused. There is no obligation to say,
absolutely not.
Cool, you're my realtors, let's go.
No,
absolutely not.
There are times
even
where
when we meet with someone, to look at their house to put together a market analysis for them, there is no commitment in that whatsoever. I mean,
really not until like I don't feel like we are enforcing you work with us until we're like actually under contract and legally you have to work with us at this point.
Yeah, we will tell you like with the buyer agency agreement, we'll have you sign that because obviously if they choose to, like that's in their best interest. But if, we're working with someone and they decide that we are not a fit for them and they say, I want out of my buyer agency agreement, we will happily sign off and let them carry on because we don't want to force anyone to work with us.
Right. I have a question, and it's probably off the record, or not off the record, but off the list of stuff we have here. You mentioned, like, okay, I want 4 bedrooms. Well, really, I need 3 bedrooms and I need an office. How do they classify those rooms? Like, how do they go, okay, this is a office, or as opposed to this is a bedroom?
Oh, the MLS just had a thing about this.
What is required to be a bedroom is you have to have a closet in it.
Okay.
And that's finished square footage. A closet in it, enclosed, obviously.
Walls, ceiling, floor.
It's weird how those are important.
Hey,
And a window access. So, like, if you're in a basement and it's the traditional window up top, that is not a fire exit. And I don't recall code if it's 36 inches off the floor, but an egress window needs to be in if it's on the lower level. So in the thought that if there were a fire that you could open that window and get out. That's what qualifies as a bedroom.
Okay.
Every now and then, when you pull the assessor's information on a property, say it reads a 4-bedroom, the assessor has it as a 4-bedroom, but when you've toured the house, you know one bedroom doesn't have a closet. There may be a closet right outside the bedroom door.
Right.
So then we usually just make a note that it's a non-conforming bedroom because the closet is not in the bedroom.
I wonder if there's a tax difference between it being a office and a bedroom.
I would vote yes.
I
don't
would
know
think
that
then
for
maybe
sure,
I'd
but
put all the closets just outside the room. Maybe save some money. I don't know. I'm not a builder, so I don't know if there's tricks to that. But
for an appraisal, a bedroom has more value.
Interesting. That is good to know. Good to know. Obviously, once somebody comes to you and starts talking to you about buying a home, and they get in the process, okay, we want to start looking. Are there things you want them to bring to the table? Like, should they come to you with maybe a pre-approval letter from a bank? Should they come to you with something to demonstrate how ready they are to buy a home?
Correct. So if they haven't yet met with a lender, we want to see a pre-approval letter before we start showing houses, really with respect for everyone's time. If somebody wants to look at a house, I like looking at houses too. I mean, like, we completely respect and understand that. But if you are not ready to be a buyer, meaning like you've met with a lender, from that person's standpoint, you get in the house and you fall in love, you're not prepared to write an offer on that house.
Yeah, it's like trying on wedding dresses.
Without
I haven't done that before, but I've heard. Yeah.
You don't have to come to a buyer consult with a pre-approval.
Yeah, no.
Right.
We are happy to suggest different lenders, and then you can kind of decide who you fit best with, and what their programs are and whatever. You don't have to bring anything to a buyer consult besides
your face,
your questions. Yeah, yeah.
That's good to know. And when you say you guys have a list of people that maybe they might want to go talk to as far as lending agents, I'm assuming you guys have some that you know that maybe specialize in like loans that have to do with like WIDA or VA or whatever. So you can kind of direct people in the right direction so they're not lost in the woods when it comes to all that.
Or someone that knows they have a lower credit score. There are some good lenders that will pretty much, just like we do a buyer consultation, we'll do a consultation for that to give you pointers of, okay, over the next 6 months, 12 months, this is what you should do, and that will bring this number up. Right. Give them pointers as well, because maybe this isn't the year you're going to buy a house or the next year, but you can learn what needs to be done so that come 2026, boom, you're solid and ready to go.
I'll say I know that from my own situation. We went in, we sat down, went for the pre-approval, and they said, hey, you don't have bad credit. You have zero credit. You have no credit. You have nothing.
No credit history.
Here's how you can build things up. And I thought, oh, come on. I'm in my early 30s or going to my mid-30s. I've been so fine so far without having anything bad. Shouldn't that be good enough? No, apparently it's not.
Yeah, because a credit score just means you're good at managing debt, technically.
Right.
But you need to have that to
It's a weird
incur
world
more.
that we live in. Let's talk a little bit about finding a home. So obviously we've talked about how people can come to you and give you a list of some desires in a home. And we've all heard the classic, I want so many bedrooms, I want a ranch style on a big yard, lakefront, whatever, but low taxes.
I want to spend $150,000.
Right, exactly. And my husband works making saddles for crickets.
That's California.
Yeah, right. But is there anything to say that like somebody can't be like just driving down the street and be like, oh, I see that house now has a for sale sign on it, and then call you up and be like, hey, I've seen that house so many times. It's a beautiful house from the outside. Can you tell me more? Or how do I get in there and look at that?
Yep, absolutely.
That happens.
It totally happens, yes. People can, you can have us. We're happy to save your search criteria when we use someone in the multiple listing service so that when anything new is listed that matches your criteria, it just emails you a link to the listing. There's no spam or anything. If you go to our website, it requires you to register. And we quite frankly will apologize for that. We could not find someone that does a real estate website that does not make you register on it. We don't call you, we don't stalk you, we don't. But people then have the option of setting up their own saved search in our website, which links to the statewide multiple listing service, so they will get the same types of updates on there. Mm-hmm. And then we encourage people to do when it's a fit, like when they've looked through the photos and they're like, oh oh my gosh, this is the one. We encourage them to do a drive-by.
Okay.
I mean, call us and let us know, like, hey, I'm available tonight at 7, and can we look at this house? But in the meantime, do a drive-by to make sure that, I mean, it's not across from the prison walls. Some people don't care about that. Some
Right.
people, that's a big deal. If there's a neighbor on one side that literally has a junkyard, there are some people that won't care, and then there'll be some like, well, I don't want to live next to that.
Right. You can kind of hide that with creative photography,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Just don't shoot that angle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You sure can. And then, show them the house. And or if someone calls up and did the drive-by and they just saw a sign like, oh, can we look at this? Like, I've always loved this brick house. And it is like, it's a 2-bedroom. Well, let's look at it anyway. But you told me you have to have at least 3 bedrooms.
Right.
And so in the interest of people's times, like, 1, the buyer, 2, the realtor, and really most importantly, the seller that then has to, well, of course,
Load up their dogs and their baskets of laundry.
and quick clean the floor and like,
Right.
get everything out for someone to come and take a look. If it's not a fit, it's not a fit.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I will admit, I had a lot of fun on the different realtor websites, looking through all the pictures of the homes, being like, oh, I really love the kitchen on this one. Oh, but I love the bathroom here. And, you know, it can be like a kid in a candy store. You don't necessarily know what you want. Sadly, you can't pick or choose parts from each home.
Sure.
You kind of have to pick one that fits best for you,
We
right?
try to help people send it through the funnel. Like, all houses come through the funnel, from for sale by owners to you name it. I mean, new construction, we talk about all of that. Send it through the funnel and filtering out, like, what is a fit for you. And, you know, like, new construction, if someone needs a house in the next 3 months, you're out. I mean, like, you're not going to get a house built in 3 months because it's not that 100-day show in California either.
Right. No matter how many crickets you saddle.
Right?
Something I'm going to see if that's a thing, and we're going to find out. So let's say somebody, we're going to get into the process of, they found a house, maybe you came out from the MLS, they got all their criteria, well, most of their criteria.
Yep.
All is tough, I think. But
Correct.
most of their criteria is met. It seems like something they want to go look at. They head out there, they drive by, they say, hey, I like the neighborhood, I like the neighbors, that all looks good, I see a nice yard I like this, I like that. They reach out to you and say, can we go look at it? They go look at it, and afterwards they're like, we love it, we want it, what do we do now?
So in the buyer consultation, we kind of prepped them with some tools ahead of time about, like, in writing an offer. So we revisit that. We can do it in person, or we have emailed over the questions before. To, you know, like, what price do you want to offer? Do you want a home inspection? Do you want a radon test?
What are your full names?
Yeah, full names with middle initials.
And
are
your full
always
name is
helpful.
not Nick, it's Nicholas.
Is that important?
Yes.
So when someone is buying or selling a house, they do a search. So say your name is Jonathan Quinton Smith. But when you bought the house, the agent wrote John Smith. So now you're selling and the title company is doing a search of your name, John Smith. Well, there's a lot of John
Right.
Smiths are popping up with
Hundreds of
liens
houses.
and things against
Yeah.
them.
And you owe $11,000 of child support to someone you've never met.
Yeah.
Not even that
Okay.
one time.
Right.
So the more you can make their name be
Right.
appropriate, full name, even if it is a John Smith, I would probably even include their full
Right.
middle name to even
Yep.
distinguish
Middle
more.
name,
But yes,
yeah, blood type, yeah, all that. Got it.
pretty much.
When it comes to giving that offer number, do people come to you and say, all right, I want to do 130 on this house, that's it? Or do they say 130, but I think I would go as high as 145, but let's do 130 and see what they come back with? I mean,
So if someone said 130, I'd go to 145. I think what all three of us would likely suggest is, okay, let's write your offer for 130. But then there is something called an escalation clause that states, here's my offer, but if you receive another offer that's 130 or above, I will top that offer by, say,
Right.
$5,000 up to $145,000.
okay.
So say they got another offer in at 135, that's going to bump your offer to 140. They get an offer in at 150, you're just out. I mean, like, yeah.
Right. Makes
If all
sense.
other terms are the same.
Now, I've seen this a few times on some of those shows that we joke about, where it's, we put in an offer at 160, and the only thing they get back is there's no counter offer, but the seller's just rejected your offer. Well, what do you do then? You just, all right, peace out, or
It depends why. If they had other offers and they rejected your offer, then yes,
Okay.
you just move on.
Right.
If they rejected your offer because they felt it was grossly low, you could re-offer if you want to. Until it's under contract, I mean, even when it is under contract, you technically could submit a secondary offer, but you could re-offer if you'd like to.
Now, sometimes, and just to give people an understanding for why offers could be rejected, it doesn't necessarily have to be because of the amount. It could also be the type of loan, right? Like sometimes
Sure.
cash offers, vice versa to other types.
Or if you have say the house listed has wood siding, chipping paint,
Right.
There's a hole between the first floor and the second floor, things like that. Some of the government programs like VA or FHA, they're going to want to see like all that chipping paint scraped and repainted, and the chips that have been scraped off cleaned up off the ground. So yes, I mean, if someone's being realistic, unless they're willing to do that, you might as well reject that offer because that's going to be a requirement of that financing.
Right. And of course, that means cost on your end as a seller to get it to that buyer offer point. That makes sense. You mentioned something a little bit earlier when you were talking about your first time home buying. And I remember when this came up for us, we knew what it was at least. But let's talk about it. Earnest money. What exactly does that mean? When does it come up? And is that something that's just like, well, you wrote a check and now that money's gone? Like,
So say someone is buying a $200,000 house and they put 1% earnest money in their offer. I mean, you choose what you're putting for earnest money in the offer. Obviously, the seller can come back and say they want something different. But so say it's $2,000. Generally, it's placed within 5 days of acceptance. Again, that's included in an offer. So say your offer was accepted today. Within 5 days, you have to deliver your $2,000 of earnest money. That is held in a trust account, either by the real estate firm that has the trust account or a title company's trust account. Those are very closely monitored. They can't do anything all willy-nilly with your money. They can't go, fund the Christmas party with it. Like, it has to sit in that account. Say something came up and you had 30 days to get your loan in place, and your husband went out and bought a brand new $100,000 truck and financed the full thing, and all of a sudden you're not going to get the loan for the house. As long as you give the seller notice of that in the time frame that your offer says you will have it by, you are still entitled to your earnest money back. In the same regard, if you had a financing contingency and never actually applied for the mortgage, then that might be arguable that the seller would be entitled to keep your earnest money because you said you were going to do this. It is pretty difficult for a buyer not to get their earnest money back.
okay. We'll take a moment because we're at the bottom of the hour here to say that this is a paid program. The advice and opinions expressed during the program are that of Klodowski Real Estate, not necessarily Good Karma Brands or WBEV. Earnest money, you kind of touched on the fact that it's something you kind of agree upon. So,
Correct.
Is that something where, as say, and I just want to clarify, as the buyer, if I say I feel comfortable putting $1,500 down in earnest money, then that's my choice. Put it down. They could say it's not enough, right?
Correct. Which I've seen a couple of times in my career, but not very often.
Okay, that is good to know. And then from that point, we talk about something you touched on again earlier: inspections. And this is something that I'm going to say, and this is my opinion on the show, are probably a really good idea.
We will always recommend a home inspection.
And we've heard about them being like people foregoing the inspection because they want to get that house. They want to make their offer look more attractive by not taking that on or whatever. But then you really are kind of playing the lottery with the home because you haven't lived there, you don't know, right?
Yep.
Correct.
So obviously, when you guys have a list of people you probably know who do home inspections.
Oh yeah, so when a buyer has an accepted offer, we email them or provide, if they're paper preferred, a list of the dates of their contract as well as a copy, and a list of home inspectors that they are welcome to contact. You can use any Wisconsin licensed home inspector, but obviously most of us just don't know a home inspector.
Right,
And
yeah.
so we give them a list with websites and that so they can research and pick who's the best fit for them. Schedule that the home inspector comes through and goes from the top of the chimney to the foundation, the exterior. It is their job. I know some people get a little defensive, but it is their job to find everything to make the buyer aware of it. That might be a leaning foundation wall. That might be a furnace that is 47 years old and has never had the filter change. I mean, I exaggerate a bit on the filter part, but down to like vegetation shouldn't be touching the house, that they should have that trimmed, or that they should clean gutters, or with fall coming, this is a good tip, like when you have the wood trim around your doors outside, like your garage doors, they're not like wrapped in metal, and that wood sits on the ground to make sure they're painted, so like the snow and that in the winter, the moisture isn't seeping into your wood and it's decaying sooner than it should be decaying. They point all that information out and then provide a report. Not uncommon for it to be 35, 65, 85 pages, because it includes pictures and things like that. And then at that point, the buyer works with their realtor to determine what is important for them. And it kind of reopens up negotiations to, say the house does not have GFCI outlets within 6 feet of the water source, kitchen or bathroom.
Right.
And they have an FHA loan. At that point, the buyer is going to want to propose back to the seller, we would like to have you have a licensed electrician come in and install GFCI outlets.
Right.
Or if it's a foundation issue, to get it evaluated further by someone that is a specialist in that to confirm it is a foundation issue and what they'd recommend for repairs, and try and negotiate that. And when it's all negotiated, you carry on. And if it's something that does not come together and the seller says, I'm not fixing squat, the buyer says, I don't want to buy the house if you don't address this, it generally results in a cancellation and mutual release type of situation.
Now, obviously, because that is a negotiation, if I feel like I'm a pretty handy guy and I'm like, okay, they're pointing out that there's some drywall that, is broken, needs to be fixed or repaired, or, that the, there's some outlet covers that are missing or broken, or stuff like that. I feel like I can do. I can say, all right, that's not an issue for me. I don't care about that, and not focus on that part of the inspection. Just move forward if I want. But if it's something where you're like, no, I want covers on everything, I want all the holes done, whatever, that's your right as a
Or
buyer
you can say, I know I can do that, but it also exists as an issue, so I'd like a $600 credit at closing, or I'd like to lower the purchase price $600. There's a lot of different options when it comes to an inspection, and if it is some of those, I feel like we almost always are recommending you ask for the electrical stuff to be done.
Right.
I'm always like, yeah.
Well, I feel like electrical is one of those things where you can't see inside the walls.
Yeah,
so
you should let a professional do that.
Yeah, good call. Good call. You said something credit versus lowering the price. What's the difference?
So if you're borrowing, if you're getting a mortgage, and say you're
versus a cash buyer is what you're saying.
Yeah. So if you're a cash buyer, it's kind of irrelevant. But if you're getting a mortgage, and say you're putting 5% down, and that 5% is equal to $5,000. If you're asking for a credit, it means, say you ask for $1,000 credit at closing, that can go towards your down payment. So then you'd bring $4,000 to the closing table instead of $5,000 to the closing table.
$1,000 in your pocket, so you
Right.
can take care of those things after you close.
Whereas
Yeah.
if it just lowered the price, then you're still paying interest on whatever. And, yeah, okay.
Yep.
Now that makes more sense. Okay. I guess the next thing we want to talk about, because we talked about electrical and the walls, and so I'm thinking about, there are concerns as a homeowner because things change when you're a homeowner. You don't worry about somebody else, making sure the lawn's mowed. You don't have to worry about somebody else shoveling snow sometimes. It's your place to take care of. It also means it's your place to make sure if anything horrible happens, and we hear about fires and things all the time, that, it's on you to keep things insured. Do you guys have a list of names for that as well? Do you guys have people you recommend?
Yes.
We do, yes. A lot of times the lender is handing out also recommendations for, but most of the time if someone already is insuring a car or something of that nature, that you can just add that on and then get a multiple discount if you have
Right.
the car and
Oh, yeah,
house insured
bundling,
on there.
right,
Oh,
yeah.
and bundling saves you. I just had a lady on Spring Street. She switched all of her stuff to the insurance agency because with just the homeowners, I think she was only going to be ending up paying $400 extra a year
Right.
if she moved her cars over because of the bundling. So if she did just her homeowners, it would have been, say like $1,200.
Right.
Moving her cars over there so that they could bundle was then total like $1,600.
Right.
I don't pay enough attention to my own insurance, but evidently that saves you quite a bit of money.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I've watched enough commercials with Flow. I know bundling is very, very important. So obviously, homeowners insurance is important, highly recommended. Not having it is just dumb. And I feel like it should almost be like a law, like it is with car insurance.
If you're getting a mortgage, you almost all lenders know.
Before you will get a loan approval and have closing happen, you need to provide proof of, and I think
A year up front usually.
Yeah, a majority of lenders, there's occasionally a few you'll see that they don't make them escrow, but make a home buyer escrow their taxes and their homeowner's insurance. So say your monthly payment for the mortgage and interest itself was going to be $1,200. And property taxes are $200 a month, and homeowners insurance is $100 a month. So they're going to collect from you $1,500 a month as your mortgage payment, and then they're going to break out that $200 for taxes and $100 for homeowners insurance, and keep that in your account. So when the bill comes due 12 months later, it's paid in full and starts over again to make sure it's getting paid. Because if you don't have your homeowner's insurance and your house burns down, the bank that is holding your mortgage note for a house that's burnt down really doesn't have anything.
Right. And, then that makes two people that don't have everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a note on here about completing loan requirements, secure underwriting, and obtaining the loan approval. Obviously, just because you walk out with a offer letter or something, or a pre-approval, I should say, from a bank or lending institution, doesn't necessarily mean that you are finalized approval.
Gosh, no.
Because people can do stupid stuff, right?
Yeah.
I know we were told when we got handed our letter of pre-approval, they said, okay, here you go. Don't buy a car. Don't buy another house. Don't get a boat. Don't decide to run all your credit cards up. Don't do any of that. Like, status quo for
status
right
quo.
now.
Yeah.
And until you sign papers and close and everything's done.
They also do a lot. I mean, most places are underwriting up front before they're even giving you a pre-approval. So they truly have a better idea of, they're not taking your word for the fact that
what you make and
your
what you
loan
owe.
to income or your
Debt to income.
Yeah, debt to income is this. They're literally requesting the proof from you, number one, and then sending it to their underwriters to verify, yes, we can give them this kind of loan. So a lot of times a pre-approval is really like information backed now. But yeah, still you have to submit all the things that they need from you.
Which make the mortgage application, tax documents, all of those things, proof that you have the insurance lined up.
Yeah.
And when all your ducks are in a row with your lender, they issue what we call loan commitment. A thing saying like, we're ready for closing day. These guys have jumped through all the hoops.
All right. We're ready to sign some papers.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've heard horror stories. Our lender actually told us about one where they were pre-approved. Everything was going good. They had a signing date all picked, and the wife was so excited that she went out and bought brand new paint, brand new stuff to do everything.
Furniture, things like that.
Spent all this money, ran up the credit cards with it, and then of course they went to go finalize everything.
Because they revisit all of that information like the day before closing again to make sure it's still the same.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, did you spend $10,000 on furniture? Well, yeah, that's not good. So don't do that, people. Definitely don't do that. Let's talk about when the date comes, the date that everybody looks for is their closing date. One, how quickly does that usually come up? Like if you see a house, we're just going to say, I see a house today. I love it. I give you an offer today. We send it off today. It gets accepted today. Inspection has happened. And now you're like, okay, we got to schedule that time for us to come together for a closing. Is this something where it's a mandatory, like you have to wait 3 weeks for closing?
I feel like everything we say is, well, it depends.
Yeah. Well, that's the truth.
But it's true, yeah.
I have had a transaction close in 5 days from acceptance to closing.
Wow.
Generally, that is a very short time frame because the title company has to do the title search because you want to make sure you're getting a
do
free
their due
and clear
diligence,
deed. Yeah,
right.
absolutely. It depends upon if the buyer is ready to close soon. 2 weeks is doable.
If there's not a lender involved.
And depends upon your lender. I mean, some of them, if they've already done the whole underwriting process and they really just need the house and the appraisal, that can be quicker. 30 days is usually a pretty good window. Or if you have a seller, like I have some folks right now, selling a house, they're building a new house, and they're not going to get in there till the beginning of December. So they have a preferred closing date of December 9th. Okay. So buyers are aware of that if they write an offer, that is when they would like to close on. So that's a little over almost 3 months.
Yeah.
Lenders appreciate 30 days kind of gives time too for like if things are gonna go, I don't want to say go wrong, but like say whatever happens with your appraisal and you have to get something fixed. 30 days is like a safe amount of time that the lender has enough time, seller has enough time, appraiser has enough time that it should come together in 30 days.
So typically, I'm the buyer. It's 30 days out. Date's approaching. Date's tomorrow, whatever. What do I need to bring to closing? What do I need to have with me at the time of closing to make sure?
Well, exercised wrist for signing things.
And a photo ID.
Okay. That's good to know. I know I have a horrible signature, by the way. I have literally the worst signature. It's just scratches and squiggles. And I know I was told at the time, they're like, all I need to know is if I point to that ever in a legal reason or otherwise, and I say, is that signature? You're willing to say, yes, that's my signature. And I'm like, it looks identical everywhere. I'm good. But that is important. What about, like, do I have to bring any money to that? Do I have to?
Generally, no. If I'd say you're a cash buyer,
do not bring cash. They won't take it. I had a lady that wanted
cash
to do
buyer,
that.
But
yeah.
Don't bring. Okay.
Yeah, and they were like, no, please
you wire
don't.
the funds. They give
Right.
you instructions. We give them to the buyer. They go to their financial institution, and here's the instructions. They wire the funds to the title company.
Okay.
Even when you're financing, say your bank is, putting $160,000 towards your $200,000 purchase, which is your mortgage, and you're paying $40,000 towards it. They're going to sweep that money from your account with your permission and signatures, of course, and then send the whole amount for closing in one wire to the title company.
Okay, that makes sense. And then that's when you get keys, right? That's when you
Correct. When you're done signing and
Right.
the money's there, yes, then you get your keys.
There you go. And then you go take that picture in front of the sign and sold, all that fun stuff.
Some people really love that.
It's weird. Like, I didn't think I would look forward to doing that, and then the opportunity came up, and I was like, all right, we kind of have to do it. And yeah, my wife's got the photos stored somewhere. She keeps looking back at it, and she's like, look at us. We were so happy. We're still very, very happy. But, now our oldest has moved out, and so my wife's like, what's great? This means I could use that bedroom as an extra space for my craft stuff. My youngest had.
Oh, I was going to say, did Toast move in there?
Yeah, Toast moved in
yeah.
there. Yeah. She was like, no. Like, it was same day. Oldest is out. And she's in there with the vacuum cleaning. I'm like, you've never touched a vacuum before. What are you doing? And she's like, I got to get it clean so I can move my stuff in. And, oh, man. And now she's talking about wanting to paint the space. And I'm like, we didn't let the oldest paint it. And now you want to paint. But you love me more. And I'm going to be here forever.
And you said, oh, no, you're not?
Yeah. No. I'm like, you're going to get the same thing all the rest of them do. You get a limited amount of time, and it's time to GTFO. Because it ain't happening. So
I love it.
Let's just, because we've gone over a lot of stuff here.
We have.
And obviously, this is a lot of information for people to take in. If you're watching the show and you haven't watched before, you may have said, like, well, this sounds really, really complicated. Why would I ever buy a house? But that's why you guys are here. You guys make it as uncomplicated as possible.
Correct. Any realtor, you have someone that guides you. Like, you're not going to go through a tour of, what do you get to, the house in the rock without someone potentially pointing things out along the way to provide you with your information and things like that. That's what you use a realtor for, is to take care of that, to answer the questions. And like I said, many times the same question over and over because, okay, now I got it type of thing. And we're happy to do that.
Now, for anybody out there right now who's looking to buy and maybe is thinking about coming to talk to you now, anything on the market coming up? Anything you got that you want to brag about?
I mean, the market is full
And
right now.
today, if you locked in your interest rate today, which I don't think this will dramatically change. Besides today, it's dramatically changing,
Right.
but outside of that, it probably won't for a while. 6%. A 30-year conventional is 66%.
You almost said 60 there. I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
that's scary.
no.
6. Okay.
I saw one this morning that was less than that.
Really?
Yeah, well, I asked Ed, a lender that I'm friends with, and he said to be safe, 6%.
Okay.
But we had people lock in 2 weeks ago at 5.8.
So we still see those interest rates climbing a little bit. And okay, so but you said there's more inventory on the market now. There's
Yes,
a few
I
more
would
things
say
out
there's
there.
considerably more inventory on the market. Like if you wanted to go and look at houses in the 240 to 270 price range, and we could probably 2 or 4 properties in Beaver Dam alone that are available. Yeah, whereas I feel like it was just last summer to be like, okay,
Even this summer, I mean, even
there are 13 properties available, active residential listings in Beaver Dam. You know, one is your $1 million lake property, and
the other one's your fixer-upper, kind of thing. And I know we've talked about that middle ground you're talking about. That's kind of like your, a good family home, good starter family home, right? And so it's good to see more and more of those on the market. Yeah. Any particular properties you guys want to brag about now before we end the show? Anything that's jumping out that you...
Do you want me to look at the address?
I want to say N7399, Beaver Bay Drive. Beautiful 4-bedroom, quartz countertops, new roof last year, 4 acres.
Nice.
Absolutely gorgeous. It listed at $525. We have one on West 3rd Street. Was that right on the fire number? Yep, N7299. Beaver Bay Drive.
Look at that.
I can't remember like my kids'
and
names
you can't get the phone number?
Like,
I mean, come on.
I'm good on numbers. I'm really good on numbers. We have one on West 3rd Street for sale, East South Street, 505 Stone Street. It's called a condo, but it really is its own standalone house with deeded lake access over on Fox Lake. Vacant land available for sale.
You guys still have the one up in Waupun?
Negotiations are happening.
Okay. Yeah, negotiations.
Okay.
Still available. Negotiations are happening.
Yes.
All right. So, and that maybe is a good reason for people to then check out your website where they can see what's out there, what's available, and reach out to you guys. Again, that's KlodowskiRealEstate.com.
Yeah.
And we would love to share that we were voted Dodge County's best real estate firm for 2024.
Oh, look at that.
And
Not that I'm surprised.
Abby and I were voted the top 2 realtors in Dodge County for
Well done.
2024. So
Poor Adam. It's like, all I do is carry the phone. Poor guy.
He's listening.
Poor guy. But no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And it makes absolute sense. You guys are super friendly, super helpful. I mean, I know, so far none of you that have popped out of like the produce section at BD Food Pride and been like, look at this house. You're very casual.
We will be
about it.
following you around the Waupun Piggly Wiggly, though.
Good to know. Good to know. Come find me. That's awesome. Remind everybody again who's listening the phone number if they want to get a hold of you or talk to Abby today.
It's 920-219-9212.
Perfect. It's perfect. Well done. Well done. Well, I want to thank you guys as always for coming in. It's always a lot of fun talking to you and just finding out more about real estate. And I know I'm far from an expert, and I know you guys go through all the trainings to learn this. So thank you for educating me today.
Oh, thank you for having us. We very much enjoy getting on here once a month and chit-chatting with you.
Awesome. It's been a lot of fun. This has been Taking Care of Business. It is a paid program. The advice and opinions expressed during that program are solely that of Klodowski Real Estate, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands.